Hi everyone. The cold weather certainly has arrived here in Canada, though you wouldn't know it by what I'm wearing. In Uganda, the rains are coming down. In Ghana, it's harvest season. And in Zambia, our friends and our partners are anticipating the next month when the rains will start and they can start planting their fields. There's an amazing amount of activity across EWB right now, and I'm excited to be able to give a few highlights of the impact and the activities over the past 6 months in this organization. I started off the past 6 months at this great retreat at the beginning of the summer that brought together about 100 leaders from across Ontario to invest in one another, to be able to understand and influence the systems that keep poverty in check, that keep injustice in check, and to really think about and dream about the types of things we can do as an organization and as leaders to create really fundamental and disruptive changes. One evening, I stayed up until the wee hours of the morning talking politics, talking philosophy, talking leadership, and I left so inspired that we have both such a committed set of people, such a group of people who are excited to invest in one another and who really have a solid set of hopes and ambitions for what we can accomplish together as an organization to create some serious change. One of those dimensions of change is certainly our advocacy work and changing Canadian policy. We launched a new strategy this summer that has, for the next 2 years, 2 different thrusts. One, to reform Canada's aid system, to make sure that it's as responsive as it can be to the needs of citizens in developing countries and effective as it can be. And we're excited to have the support of the Gates Foundation in being able to do that work. On the other side, we've also launched a thrust to have Canadian mining practices in sub-Saharan Africa be the most responsible in the world. And we have an amazing partner in Publish What You Pay on that thrust of our advocacy strategy. We've already had an enormous amount of activity over the past 6 months. Meetings with dozens of MPs in person, having hundreds of EWBers call their members of Parliament, send them letters, give them a great welcome back to Parliament, to really say that Canada wants to see, and Canadians wants to see, progress on reforming Canada's aid system.
So we have about 20 EWBers hanging out today in Ottawa to meet with about 50 MPs to talk about the merger of CETA and the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and how that merger can come with a higher level vision for Canada's development assistance.
Going in, I really had no expectations because this is my first time ever meeting with an MP or engaging with a politician in Canada. And so by the end of it, they're asking us to email them the countries that we work in. He's really interested in forming a partnership with us in terms of he's really invested in that African side of the Canadian politics.
For the rest of the fall, we are really tackling and diving into these issues around having Canadian mining companies be the most responsible in the world. An exciting set of activities here in Canada. Our leaders and volunteers in Canada have also been tremendously active with our ventures that seek to bring engineers and the engineering profession to the skills and the attitudes necessary to solve 21st century problems. I'm excited and really proud of what our Toronto professional chapter and Montreal professional chapter did this year in bringing together engineering leaders from the corporate sector, from the nonprofit sector, from the government sector, to talk about how engineers can play a prominent role in addressing some of the most pressing issues over the coming years. And it was this great commingling that I was at in Toronto of young professionals and established engineering leaders really talking about these ideas and talking about innovative solutions. And it's just the tip of the iceberg for our global engineering outreach venture that is involved in National Engineering Month and really involved in changing the conversation that people have in society about what role engineers can play, and also changing the conversation that engineers have about the role and expectations they have for how they can contribute to society. Just some of our great work here in Canada with our ventures, with our leaders and volunteers. Let me also tell you about one of the new ventures EWB has invested in within sub-Saharan Africa. It's called Voto Mobile. Voto Mobile really seeks to increase the loudness of the voice that citizens have in holding the institutions that are delivering public services to them to account. One of the ways they do this is through this really amazing app that has reduced the price and made it a lot easier to have two-way surveying by voice and by text message between citizens and the institutions that are serving them. To give you a sense, is over the past 6 months, they've had some incredible successes. 3 numbers that are really interesting to me. First is that they've sent 55,000 messages, mostly voice messages, to citizens in 5 different countries. The second is that they've had 90 organizations that they've worked with that have allowed those organizations to gather citizens' voices. And the third is that Voto Mobile itself is an African organization employing 3 Ghanaian software developers, really making this organization situated within Kumasi in Ghana and being able to serve citizens that much more effectively because of that. One of the amazing brief anecdotes I've heard recently from them is they're working with an organization called the Send Foundation in Ghana that has hundreds of citizens who are part of councils across the country, and they've had a real hard time being able to gather those voices together to be delivering them to policymakers. And what Voto Mobile has been able to do is help them gather those voices for a low cost and really easily together to be able to put those ideas in the hands of individuals and leaders who can start to influence policy by gathering the ideas of what citizens actually want within Ghana. And that's really interesting power that Voto Mobile has. They've already been successful at building a great platform. The next little while is going to be about doing more of these types of projects that they just did with Send Foundation to be able to have those voices create changes in the behaviors of the institutions delivering services. It's a very exciting venture. I'm looking forward to more of that and looking forward to more of our ventures in Canada and Africa that I've just given you a small snippet of that you can learn more about on EWB's websites. I wanted to finish by thanking 2 groups of people. First, the hundreds of Aeroplan members who donated 2 million miles to EWB just a couple of weeks ago in one single day. That helps pay for 20 flights between Canada and Sub-Saharan Africa and Canada for amazing leaders to move between both continents and allow us to do our work. Second, I wanted to thank the members of the student and professional chapters across this country who, when EWB was facing a tight financial situation this past summer, stepped up and really allowed us to continue our impact and continue our activities and continue our plans. They really came through. You really came through. Thank you so much for being able to support and continue to support that impact and rally in this organization. Finally, I wanted to invite everyone to come to our national conference coming up this January 2014 in Toronto. It's called Rethink Leadership, Entrepreneurship, and Partnership. You're all invited. Take a look at the website, register, and hope to see you there. Bye for now.